In this video, we're going to learn about the basics of engineering drawings in Solidworks and discuss adding annotations with proper techniques. This is the part that I want to create a drawing of. You can see there's a couple holes in a couple different locations. This is a counterbore, but it's a pretty straightforward part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a drawing. If I'm starting a new drawing from scratch, I can go to File, New, and click on Drawing. But I actually have a custom template that I'm going to use. It's pretty typical for different classes or schools or companies to have a drawing template that they provide. So what I'm going to do is open my template right here. Right now, I'm automatically brought into this sheet format view. If there's any changes that I want to make, I can edit sheet format right now. It has these callouts. So if I specify a material, it will automatically put the material in there. If I specify a title, it will do the same. Same with my scale. And all this information is pretty standard. The date autofills. But I'm happy with it the way it is. So I'm going to go to my drawing tab here and select model view. This is where I'm going to choose the part that I'm going to put into this drawing. Because I have my drawing part already open right now, it pops up. But if I didn't, I could hit browse and look for it here. Now, if you see my cursor, I have this box that shows up and I can move it around. And wherever I click, that's where it's going to drop the front view. If I move my cursor up, it's going to project the top view. If I move it to the right, it is going to project the right view. So I'm going to drop a right view and a top view and go out to the side and project this three-dimensional view as well. These are the 4 views that I wanted. Obviously you can add more if needed, but this is a pretty standard setup for a drawing. So I'm going to hit accept, and these are my views. This three-dimensional view is a general view. It's independent, so I can move it around by itself. And it's standard for three-dimensional views to be shown as shaded with edges. So I'm going to change that display style here. All I had to do for that was click on the view and look at this menu on the left. I have some other options here. Right now I'm using the parent scale, but if I wanted to make a custom scale, I could do that as well. But I'm going to leave it as the parent scale. And there's some other things I can play around with. These top views and right views are, like I said, they're projected on my front view. So if I move my front view, they will move with it. They are just projections. I can move it up and down, but not left or right. And it's the opposite for the right view. Again, I could change these as well, but this is standard, so I'm going to leave it. Another thing that I can do when I click on my view is import annotations. So I'm going to hit that check there, and then there's different ones that I can add. I'm going to add design annotations. These are my dimensions, and I'm going to do that for all 3. I can move my dimensions around wherever I want, and I can right click and hide them, but I'm going to undo that and bring it back. I'm going to come back to annotations a little bit more later. Right now I want to continue focusing on the views. So I'm still in this drawing tab, and I can see I have a bunch of options up here. I'm just going to go through a couple of them. Projected view we already went over. Next I want to talk about the auxiliary view. So you can see on this side we have these holes, and we can't really get a good look at them from the top or from the right. I really want a view that is perpendicular to this surface so I can get a good look at that view. What I'm going to do is hit auxiliary view, and it's asking for a reference edge, and I want this edge here. And then I can bring that out. I'm going to name this view A, and these double arrows are typical, and you can see it's labeled view A. It's definitely getting a little crowded here, but we can get the idea. Next is a section view. So sometimes it's easier to see a certain view, not from the surface, but if we were to cut it down the middle or down any other plane. So for a section view, I'm going to specify the direction I want the cutting line to be. Right now it's this vertical cut, which is not what I want. I want it to be this horizontal cut. I'm going to do it right in the middle. Hit my check, and now I can drop this. There's not a ton of space, so I'm going to throw it up there. Typically you want your drawings to be inside this border, and you want it to look a little more organized than this. But I'm just trying to demonstrate some of these options that we have. The last view I want to get into is the detail view. So here I can draw a circle, and then I can drop a close-up off to the side. And here is more likely where I'm going to edit my scale. Make it a little bigger if needed. Now that I've shown these different views, I'm going to remove them and clean up this drawing a little bit, just to make this video a little easier to see. So I'm just going to click on that view, hit delete, and say yes. Next, I want to get into my annotations tab. This is where I said I was going to come back to dimensions. So like I mentioned, you can move them around wherever you want. You can hide them. You can use the Smart Dimension tool and add them in the same way that we do on sketches. In this annotations tab, I can add any notes that might be useful to the manufacturer. So maybe I want a note that says all rounds are 0.5, just to specify. This is where I can do that. I have some options with formatting. I'm just going to leave it and hit check. I can add a table by right-clicking and hitting tables. I can just add a general table. I can mess with my template, my columns, my rows. When I hit accept, I can drop it wherever I want. That's not where I want it though. Up here, tables are used, like this table I made at the bottom. It can be used for revisions or a bill of materials, all kinds of stuff. One thing I want to get into is some more dimensioning options. So real quick, I'm going to give this hidden lines so we can see our counterbore. And what I want to do is dimension this counterbore in a concise way. So one thing I could do is use my Smart Dimension tool and click on this diameter, zoom in, click on my inner diameter. Know everything I need to know. I would also need this depth here. But these are a lot of dimensions just for one aspect of this part. So what I want to do is add a note. And I want it to come off of this. I'm going to move it over here. And what I want to do is reference all of these dimensions that I just called out and put them into one note. So because there's two of these counterbores, I'm going to start with 2 times. And that's saying that everything that follows is happening twice. First, I want to start with the diameter of the feature. So I'm going to start with this inner diameter. And all I had to do is click on it and it pops up there. And that is through all. On the next line, I want the counterbore information. So I'm going to add this counterbore dimension, and then my depth is this 0.12. I'm going to hit accept, and I can see that there's some information lacking. I can't tell exactly what these dimensions are referencing, so I'm going to edit them here. This 0.52, I'm going to go to dimension text, go to the very beginning and add this counterbore feature. And then for the 0.12, this is a depth. So I'm looking for my depth icon here. I'm gonna hit accept, and I can see that this was automatically updated in that. Now that I have all of these in one location, I don't need them anymore. So I'm gonna click on them and delete, and I have it all in one place. In my drawing, I can also add any necessary sketches that might add to this information. I can mark up my drawing, I can evaluate, and go through the rest of these tabs. Sheet format we already covered. The main things we wanted to focus on was drawing and annotations. There's a lot that you can do with drawings. There's a lot of different information you need to know about geometric dimensioning and tolerancing and the typical way to present information. But this was just a beginner to show you the interface. One thing that I actually missed was the mouse controls. So I was able to zoom in and out just by scrolling on my mouse. I can pan by clicking my middle mouse button and dragging. And because it's two-dimensional, I don't need to worry about holding any other keys. I can just move it around as needed.